Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, witnesses, for being here. Maybe I missed this a while ago, but Dr. DeCicco, can you tell me a little more about why corn ethanol is worse for air quality than gasoline? That may have already been asked and hashed, but
sure. I'd be happy to explain that. In particular, the part of the air quality that I'm focusing on is the CO2 emissions, because that's the emissions that the ethanol proponents claim that would be reduced by the use of ethanol. When it comes right down to it, it's a matter of chemistry for the fuel. Carbon, as I said, is the fuel of life, and it provides energy both to people through calories, and we can also use carbon-based fuels to provide energy for cars and trucks and airplanes. And it's a great energy carrier. So ethanol is a carbon-based fuel, and that is somewhat compatible with gasoline, although, as we've heard, there's limits and problems associated with putting too much of it into the gasoline. But when you burn ethanol, the combustion still creates CO2 coming out of the tailpipe. Same for biodiesel. And so a short way of thinking about it is that if biofuels were to have a benefit for CO2, it's not when they're burned. I mean, when you burn it, you have to burn that carbon, CO2 comes out of the tailpipe. So then you have to ask, okay, well, if the reduction of CO2 does not occur at the tailpipe, where might it occur? And this is where you have to go back and say, well, did we remove more CO2 when we harvested the feedstock than plants were already absorbing from the air? And if you haven't done that, and in the vast majority of biofuel that we grow, we're growing it on existing cropland, sourcing the corn and soybeans from existing cropland, you've not removed more CO2 from the air. Now, yields have gone up a little bit. My analysis accounts for that. But that's just a small increase in the removal. But the bottom line is, because there's no benefit to the atmosphere when the biofuel is burned, unless you pull more CO2 out of the air, which you might do by harvesting corn stover residues, so there's a potential there to get a benefit that way. But unless you do something like that, if all you do is divert existing crop production into the fuel market, then right off the bat, there's no benefit. And as I said before, then you have to add in all those excess emissions associated with processing the fuel, and the picture starts to look very bad very soon.
Okay, thank you. And should corn ethanol be classified as a green fuel then, given this environmental impact?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. And now the administration has proposed lowering the ozone standard, ambient air quality, to 70 parts per billion. In your opinion, would the RFS complicate efforts to attain a more stringent standard, if that's the case?
Yes, it could. As you move into sort of the various parts of the low blend realm, you can worsen evaporative emissions from ethanol. I wouldn't want to say that it's a large effect, but it's an aggravating effect.
But if you couple that with higher food prices and the other negatives of the ethanol industry, it certainly could have a detrimental effect, right?
Well, I'm sticking kind of myself on the environmental side here. I know there's different views on the food price impacts.
Okay, I was just thinking. And Dr. Dinan, what is your assessment of the impact of the RFS on blending of biofuels into the transportation fuel supply? And has the use of biofuels increased because of the RFS, or would we have seen ethanol production grow without a federal mandate? It's a three-part question.
Okay. Well, we really don't actually answer the question, did corn ethanol use grow because of the RFS? What our analysis is really about looking forward. So what we do look at is whether or not the use of corn ethanol would decline very much if we had a repeal of the law. And we indicate that we don't think it would decline that much because there are other benefits that blenders receive by blending in the corn ethanol. It helps them with octane requirements and with meeting carbon monoxide emission reductions requirements. So that's why we don't find a big drop in corn ethanol use. But if the law was to push the amount of corn ethanol, of total ethanol, total renewable fuels, up to the levels required under the law, ISA, rather than the amount proposed by EPA, then there would be a significant problem with the blend wall.
Okay, thank you. My time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.